It seems to be on. So I ended up creating a series of lockdown lectures, which I think it's reasonably self-explanatory, but to be specific, this was lectures for undergraduate students at university who basically, because of COVID, weren't able to access the usual quality of their teaching. And so it wasn't my first interaction with Bangor University. I actually went to this beautiful place out in the middle of the country, and we had this regular design conference for the past 3 years from everyone from Unilever to Seymour Powell, DCA Design. So just really quite remarkable that out in the sticks, there was something of this caliber. So I, always rooting for an underdog. And actually, this isn't Wales, this is Cumbria, where I grew up. And I know it seems crazy probably to this audience, but actually when I was a kid, I didn't actually know you could be a designer, or indeed let alone how to be a designer. So I've always had this chip on my shoulder of how long it took me to get a career in it. I wanted to sort of give back and enthuse people in rural communities that it is possible. So I think I've always grown up, as I said, sort of being in the country, being quite resourceful. And I'm actually now sitting, aside from the virtual backdrop, in a 2-meter cube, basically where I managed to achieve, I think, quite a lot with very little other than a laptop and quite a lot of tools. But it's that resourcefulness that I remember when I created the online lecture series, people said, "Oh, what software are you using? It looks quite sophisticated." And I sort of sheepishly admitted that this is a PDF document, which I scroll through, my photo booth, just the default camera, and then a text editor for my notes, remembering what I need to say. And this has always been going on in my life, in that I created, when I was at Dyson, a series of prototyping tutorials showing people how to make stuff out of card. But next to that orange arrow, you can see my tripod hanging from the ceiling with a camera on it and my wife's compact makeup mirror elastic banded so that I could see what my hands were doing whilst I was doing these tutorials. Anyway, back to the actual thing in hand. The lockdown lectures were basically chunked into the blue bit, which is lots of sort of prototyping and practical skills, the yellow bit, which was sort of lots of holistic, how do you get a career? And then because of the COVID situation, the red bit was really about how do you maintain morale and passion in tough circumstances. And even though I could have gone on about all the great stuff I've done at Lego and Dyson and Subaru, I brought it back to what did I do for my final year project with the NHS? And this is the sort of rough and ready slapdash prototyping methods that I used to create something which would help avoid your trachea being ruptured in an operation. So it's actually, when you put that sort of honest perspective, warts and all, we had a Q&A here live on Zoom with about 60 students, with Peridor, the tutor and the host for this, and you can see all the questions streaming in, and it's just incredible to get that feedback rather than just pushing out a lecture and saying it's done. To get that critique back. And so one of the things I sort of wanted to sort of pick from the lectures was this thing about T-shaped people, which some of you have heard of, which was basically saying lots of broad experiences with a few areas of depth. And I thought this was actually quite a sort of fitting metaphor for where we were going, ironically. And this is a Zoom layout of all sorts of different people with their various individual T's. And if you imagine a skill is blue, then some people have a little bit, some people have a medium bit, and some people have a lot. And how you can create connections, not just between departments, but also geographically. How can we connect better in a global world post-COVID, living with COVID? And so I realized that when I was trying to sort of plot my experiences, which I think I was very fortunate to have globally, a lot of different things, I realized a lot of these are sort of post-rationalized and look very, very glossy and all very well to a lot of students. And they would be reasonable to say, well, thanks a lot, but that isn't our situation. And so as I was recounting all these stories to the students of various exciting projects I've done, I realized, gosh, I feel incredibly uncomfortable. I'm not the oracle here at all. And actually, most of the time, it's because I've worked with incredible people all around the world that has elevated the result of what I did. So I actually realized, a side project was that it evolved from this, which was a laterally speaking video cast. It sounds weird saying it, but podcast with images. And so I interviewed over 20 people within this 2-week period of putting the workshop together, and just had everyone from all my networks just chipping in and giving great advice to students, which I really loved. And here's just sharing a little technical thing, which sounds very geeky, but because the audio wasn't so great, I actually created this thing called Acoustic Pillow, jokingly, which was basically putting your phone on a little pillow or folded up tea towel. And I think the next slide is of Sarah from the British Museum, basically the person who curates all of the UK's best exhibitions through the British Museum. I think it's a nice icebreaker, actually, just to say, this is nuts, is this going to work? And so we had this sort of great discussion, and that meant that we removed some of the bugginess and the sort of choppy internet connection, which hopefully is better for you listening now. And it meant that with that sort of out the way, we could get to the heart of the matter, which was sort of incredible journeys through. Here we have children's manga, LGBTQ issues, fashion. They'd just done a project where they had 3D scanned ancient artifacts and made them public to the world. And so really, I feel like it's always this balance between the technical detail and the creative aspiration. And a quick shout out to Gibran Ferrer, who basically put all these audio files together in this crazy environment of editing, which I know nothing about, but he did an amazing job. And I wanted to acknowledge that. That's very much how I get stuff done. So in conclusion, really, what I love is that on the left-hand side, we've got all these great lectures, and that's terrific. But actually on the right, there's this complement of over 20 vcasts, which you can go at judepullen.com/vcast and check out all the things that they had to say about a lot of the themes. And so in many ways, I sort of feel incredibly proud that this is something which it really is true to the saying of the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And these are just a sample of some of the really diverse discussions that we had on it. So we started off in lectures, but we finished off in global discussions. So yeah, it feels relevant to be here. So thank you again, Mark, and the team at PechaKucha.
Thank you very much, Jude. That's brilliant.